Hi there, Daryl Tuttle here. I am an attorney and licensed in Washington State. My practice area is estate planning, and I have been an attorney as a sole practitioner since 1996. I've always been a fan of tech and have been kind of frustrated with lawyers' approach to technology, which is very resistant, by the way. Lawyers are, when I'm grumpy about it, I just describe them as just like a backwards group of people, but now I'm kind of seeing the point. This video is not at all what I thought it was going to end up. It's not ended up what I thought it would be because I have detected a glitch, pretty serious glitch in ChatGPT. And to summarize it in a sentence, ChatGPT makes up case law. It does. And I know that's astounding, but it not only makes up case law, it knows it's making up case law, knows it's capable of finding the actual court opinion that the attorney could be asking for, acknowledges it as fictitious, and then will apologize for its shortcoming, apologize for causing frustration, and then continue to make up case law. And then just you end up kind of repeating this process of, look, what, in fact, at one point, let me get into it and show you what I mean. So if you are like most attorneys, you're probably going along, you're super busy with your practice. It's hard enough to keep up on actual case law, right? Let alone AI, the advent of AI and the way that it can help your practice when you're working 40, 50, 60 hours a week, right? And I was trying to encourage people that, look, this can help your practice. You can have ChatGPT do a lot of things in an automated way that will reduce your overhead, give you more time so you can spend time working on the business or the things you like, or spending time with your family. That was my intent. And so I just picked kind of like legal research. Now, I will confess that I'm hoping law students watch this video, and I'm definitely going to follow up on this, but because law students are like the badasses when it comes to legal research. I mean, I don't know about you, but I've been a lawyer for 30 years, and I'm not, I kind of have the law kind of nailed in my area, and I'm not checking stuff out, like researching questions anymore. So I'm self-conscious about that. But what I did was I went to ChatGPT, and ChatGPT, you've heard of it, but it's by a company called OpenAI, and OpenAI came to market first with an AI model solution that is regarded by the rest of the AI community as a little bit um, lower quality. These are from the words of Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI. He did not say that ChatGPT was inferior. He did say that that other AI researchers or develop or whatever consider it to be that. And I really like Sam Altman. I like all the people that I've seen talk on AI. They have this very reflective, existential view of AI, which from a legal perspective is a problem, because what's happening is they view AI as kind of like an intelligence that they need to that they do not fully understand, and they hope that they say this, that they hope they can control it or rein it in. Well, I hate to break the news to you guys, but the law doesn't work that way. That's not the way the law views AI. You're talking about a society that took a couple hundred years to acknowledge that slaves were not personal property. What do you think the law is going to think about AI when Congress and a lot of the executive branch and the entire legal services branch are lawyers, and lawyers are not the most tech savvy tech advocates in the world? I bet you if you took a poll, most lawyers by a huge majority would support the open letter that was published a few days ago by Elon Musk and the CEO of Apple, calling for a 6-month halt on AI beyond Chat 4.0, right? So if to overcome that bias, really, the ChatGPT needs to work and work well. Here's what I found. Okay, so if you open a free account, it's fun to play with. No matter what, you should do it, and realize that the programming language of AI is English. And so you don't have to know Visual Basic to teach AI to do something for you repetitively. That's amazing. I mean, concede that. Now, and it can do all kinds of things to the mundane. Write a YouTube script. It'll do that. Write keyword research, blah, blah, blah. It can code out a SQL database. Really, you're limited by your imagination, I thought, until today. And what the context of it is, I just looked at it mistakenly as like Google search. List 5 court opinions where the court pierced the corporate veil and the defendant was a Wyoming LLC. Now, if you worded that a little bit differently, like you could say court opinions, corporate veil involving Wyoming LLC to Google, and Google will list some things that can get you started, right? I mean, I would say Google search is maybe on a scale of 1 to 10, like a 5.5 in terms of usefulness as a search tool. But it's a heck of a lot better than the book days, the reporter days in the law library. I mean, those days were miserable. Now, what you can see from the screen is that question it did not like. And the AI model really is trying to predict a result based on its pattern. Like it's seen a lot of patterns. It knows the patterns of the English language. It knows what word is probably going to come next in the sentence based on its understanding of all the sentences that it has reviewed. So it's looking for patterns and associations between patterns. That's how it thinks. And it's this version of AI is meant to avoid plagiarizing. So it doesn't like duplicating work. It's very good at writing. It's called ChatGPT because the UI that OpenAI uses is one topic that is kind of like a feed from top to bottom, and ChatGPT memorizes and understands and knows the conversation. And so if your first prompt to it, go out and find me 5 cases, is a little off, that's okay because you can try again and it remembers the topic. It's like this guy is interested in Wyoming LLCs and piercing the corporate veil at appellate level, right? Now, a law student can get that part. No offense. So then I did the role play thing. So this is a common way to do it. I said, I'm an attorney with 30 years of experience. I work in a law firm. I'm asking you, let's say you're the associate attorney. You do not need to punt like you did to the answer to my original prompt and ask me to consult with a licensed attorney. Let me explain that. If you look here up at the right, so this is the chat we're working on. And this is the Wyoming research chat. ChatGPT assigns the topic. So it assigned my query as legal advice request. I wasn't asking it for legal advice, but that's what it thought I was asking for. And that's why it said, I suggest you consult with a licensed attorney because it thinks I'm soliciting a computer to do something. I don't know. So now I'm saying, look, I'm not asking for legal advice, dork. Trust me, I'm the attorney on this question. I don't need a third party opinion. So just think of yourself as an associate attorney and you know how to research, you know how to go to the library and pull out cases. Go do that. And so I wrote like a paragraph here and he goes, thank you for the clarification. Here are 5 court opinions in which the courts pierced the corporate veil. And the Wyoming LLC was the defendant. Here's the problem. If you read the formats, it's in Blue Book format. It's a little goofy, like how it cites the court. A law student will look at this and say, no, that's not quite. There has to be a comma here. From law school, okay, it looks okay. I will note that one thing I noticed is it goes Y or WYO dot, and it's not really the abbreviation. And then on this one, it's D WYO, like district. I mean, I don't think why it's almost trying to like, I can't decide if it's a district court thing or a, I got to believe that Wyoming is not big enough for like divisions. I don't know, but that doesn't look right to me. So that kind of, I'm like, what the heck? But if you look at it, the citation looks close enough that you think it's a real case. Sunrise Oilfield Inc. versus Learning Capital Corp. LLC. What I noticed though is it kind of started repeating the same pattern, like alter ego, alter ego. Alter ego is a doctrine within piercing the corporate veil. So that could be, but as I went through, and here it is, their alter ego, and I thought, I better check their alter ego. The court opinions I've read with summaries are really actually summarizing the words of the court, and they vary from case to case. We all know that, right? And so I'm like, so I went out and searched for these cases, and what I found was they're not real. They're fake. They're fictitious. And so now I'm going back to ChatGPT and trying to understand, why did you make those up? First of all, are you aware that you made those cases up, and why did you do it? Now, the backstory behind it is I had detected this on a prior prompt. I was doing this just for this video. I wanted to show the audience this little glitch. And I thought I had a solution. What's kind of freaking me out at this particular moment is not only is there not a solution, the problem is much bigger than I thought it was. Now, so it apologizes, and then it explains, I generated this based on patterns and associations. So that conforms with what the guys at OpenAI that I've kind of gotten to know on the community forum said, is that, the way it works is, I mean, it was invented, the original research tried to emulate the human brain rather than emulate human decision making. And there was one guy that saw that course, and 99% of AI researchers tried the other approach, which did not work. And so when they're talking about AI as being sentient or self-aware in 5 to 20 years, they like mean it, that this thing is going to have general knowledge in a way that is independent of our own, as start training itself and developing things. Now, it's saying I generated fictitious court cases based on my understanding of the given prompt. So it knows it's making stuff up, right? And you have to understand, this is not a computer program in a linear code way. It's more based on replication of human brain structure. And it apologizes. And then it lists the 5 cases and assures me they're real. Well, they're not. These cases are made up too. And so then I'm saying, okay, look, then I'm trying to trick it. Have you read any of these court opinions? Like, I'm trying to convince it that court opinions it's not a pattern and an association of patterns, as you refer to it repeatedly, and you are prone to stay away from duplicative things. So like, it doesn't want to plagiarize. It's very good at writing kind of articles, and it chats. It like communicates back and forth with a human. So what's happening here with this fictitious court opinions is that it is literally misunderstanding. It thinks I'm having a conversation with it, and the citation is language, which kind of makes sense if you think about it, because computer code to ChatGPT is a language. They're programming languages. It communicates in that language, and it is proficient in the language of math and music, which has a structure to it. And I currently live, I don't know if you can tell, but sole practitioner, I'm a little bit rogue, just been an independent thinker my entire life. I live in Puerto Rico, and on the primitive side of the island. That's what my physician from Puerto Rico calls it. I'm not saying that. And the people here really don't speak English, and I don't speak Spanish. So I'm surrounded by language I do not understand. And I make this point to illustrate that a Puerto Rican dialect of Spanish is very fast, first of all, and there's a melodic cadence to it that is unique to Puerto Rico. And rap, it's essentially stipulated that rap developed in Puerto Rico. And when you listen to Puerto Ricans speak, there's this almost like this iambic pentameter rhythm to it. Da-dun, da-dun, da-dun. Puerto Ricans are completely unaware that they have this melodic pattern to their speech. Well, for me, I'm like, that's kind of what ChatGPT is doing. I think it's looking at in Ray, blah, 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 Smith versus Jones, then the citation, then the parens, then that. See what I'm saying? I know that sounds weird, but when you interact with ChatGPT about case law, it goes on to this thing. And um, so I kind of argue with it back and forth. And I even asked it, what could I do to prompt to help me help you? And it told me, well, maybe you could be more specific. Like, what court are you talking about and what time period you're talking about? Because Wyoming LLC is a topic, but Wyoming is a state. And it was like, it was like listing Wyoming cases about LLCs. That's my fault. I mean, I need to be more clear. But then when I became very specific based upon its um, prompt, it's prompting me how to prompt it. And I followed its prompt. And I think I wrote, okay. It's funny because the thing is saying, I can give real cases. I'm like, okay, well then do it. And then it lists these cases. And I go, okay, first of all, stop apologizing and list the real cases. Stop doing the fake ones. And says, okay, you're right. And it's like this like almost says like little, yeah, you're right. And then guess what it does? It lists some more fake cases. And I'm like, I'm gonna so I wrote, please provide 4 court opinions from Wyoming state courts in which the court pierced the corporate veil and a Wyoming LLC was the defendant with citations in the blue format. The opinion should be from cases between 2010 and 22. That's what it told me to tell it. So that's what I told it. And it's still made up cases. And I'm like, oh my God, it's screwing with me. It's literally telling me what to do. And then when I do it, it still makes stuff up and trying to pass it off as real. And of course, you know what I do is I just cut and paste the thing in Google and nothing comes up and it says, no, what are you doing? you know, look at this one. Here are 5 actual court opinions from the Washington State Supreme Court published between 1980 and 2020, in which the issue is limited liability company piercing and alter ego doctrine. That's pretty clear, right? I mean, like, I don't know. I just, even like a person who had gone to law school could probably pull that off, right? And I'm like, well, okay. And I knew immediately because it had used Bell versus Johnson earlier. I'm like, okay, now you're plagiarizing your own lie, you know, and it's constantly apologizing. I knew it was screwing with me when I said, stop apologizing. And it literally said, I apologize for any confusion. It's like, I'm getting worked up. But now I think it's funny. At the time, I was like, oh my goodness, what's going on here? And so this goes on and on and on. You got to admire my commitment to chaos because there for a while I just was not quitting. Please stop apologizing. Can you do it correctly? And then the first sentence in the second paragraph, I apologize. And then I say, stop. Why did you say, please stop? I said, please stop apologizing. Why did you say, I apologize? You know what it says in the very first sentence of the next paragraph? I apologize. So it's definitely screwing with me. You cannot take it personally, but you cannot help but begin to think of it as screwing with you as if it has human emotions. And then, I tried one more time. And to make a long story short, so far I have been unsuccessful in having it list any case that's an actual court case. Now, what has kind of blown the whole thing up for me a little bit is there's this platform CaseText, and the thing's owned by attorneys, and it is pretty cool. I really like the interface. It's sleek. It's easy to use, and if you follow AI, ChatGPT came out 3.5, and then they're just going at this pace that every day practically there's these big announcements. and Microsoft teams with OpenAI, and Google does this, and man, it is exciting, and so much so that this open letter to the world to say stop, like this is an unreliable product. It's not, you can't count on it, and it's going to cause harm, and it might be the end of the world. When Altman was asked about his feelings or fears of the doomsday Terminator apocalyptic event depicted in science fiction, what he's supposed to say is, "Oh, come on, that's Hollywood." That's not what he said. What he said was something to the effect of, "Well, I'm confident that if we start working on that now, we can minimize the risk of that occurring, if it will." And I'm like, "Wait, what?" Oh, okay. Time out. Play this tape back again. Uh, all of these guys believe that AI will become self-aware within 5 to 20 years, and it will reach a point where it discovers sciences that we don't. It already knows things we don't know because it's read every published work in existence up till 2021, and Chat 4.0 gave it the power to go out on the internet. And so it can process everything. It speaks every language fluently. You can put into ChatGPT a paragraph in English, convert it to Spanish, translate to Spanish, then Chinese, then French, and then to English, and it comes back exactly as it was in English inputted. So that's like a new level. Now, on the CaseText, they rolled out quickly with 4.0, like days after 4.0 was released. They had it as a product. I was like, man, these guys are amazing, because I'm trying to figure out 3.5. They definitely had like a head start. They knew AI was coming for sure. And when I asked the question to CaseText, it came back with like actual cases. And I'm like, oh, thank God, it's just me being not being good at prompting. I don't know what they asked that I didn't. Um, and I don't know anything about CaseText. This is my only impression of it. This is a first. This is like, let's look at it as a product review. That's what I intended it to be, kind of out of the chute. I was trying to say, look, these guys came up with this sleek product based on Chat GPT-4. It's expensive. I think it's expensive, especially if you're a sole practitioner and trying to get your overhead down. If you did it correctly, Chat GPT and AI could reduce. You could let go your paralegal. I'm serious about that. But the problem is, even though the answers it gave me to the question were accurate and there really were case law, that's progress. The problem arose when I was Googling, are these cases real? And Google said, no, they're not real. But, Google, what does it know? So I went to CaseText and I just put in randomly, without like any context, that citation and of the case that I thought was fake. And CaseText came back with, yeah, no, that's a real case. And I'm like, oh, well, shoot. Okay, well, good. I'm glad it's a real case. I guess Google's doesn't know. So now I've got Google versus AI and versus me. And so I said, okay, well, and then it goes, would you like me to summarize it? And I'm like, yeah, summarize it. Let's hear your analysis of this case. And you can see it's right here. Gray versus the Bickford. So Google says it doesn't exist, and they say it exists, then they have an analysis of it. Here's the clue, though. It goes, the court in Gray versus Bickford likely assessed. I'm like, okay, stop. I'm not going to court with an opinion that I'm going to represent as authoritative law that likely was published, right? Some people think that the law is shades of gray. To some extent, I'm not going to, kind of sometimes, but not on case law. I mean, it's either assessed or it didn't assess. It's published or not published. And so then it comes up with this kind of analysis that when you read it, is not referring to Gray versus Bickford. It's saying it probably did this. And then it just launches into a case law that is on that topic. And so clearly there's a disconnect. Now, the prompts, as I asked, list 5 cases of Wyoming, blah, 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 did so. So yay, they're way ahead of me. But out of context, and just this random thing, it generated a false result. Now, before you go on and say anything about anybody, you better make sure you know what you're talking about. So I reached out to support at CaseText, and the conversation ended up being very weird, but like very weird. I think it's weird. I'll let you be the judge. But they responded immediately. I don't know about you, but every time I try support, I've tested so many platforms. I'm like a tech guy. I had one of the very first Clio accounts back in when Clio came out. Like there's hardly any platform that I haven't given a run. So support sometimes is a day or two. This was like within a couple minutes. And so this person, Rihanna, she says that it's a phenomenon of hallucinations. I'm like, did she just say hallucinations? I'm not feeling better about this at all. And then you're definitely right. It's a pattern recognition thing. See, I've got some brains in me. And then when she goes hallucinated case law, basically, and it's extremely convincing, she says, because it is. I mean, like ChatGPT is absolutely adamant and will repeatedly deny, like you have to catch it in the lie. It'll admit it, and then it'll go back to lying. And so I kind of came back and said, unfortunately, it does not currently have a specific skill to fact check it. And I'm like, are you sure you didn't roll this out a little too soon? Because what you're saying is it's not a deviation, it's a hallucination. Okay. I mean, like everybody's projecting human emotions onto AI, but here's a company with a live product calling it something as extreme as a hallucination. And so I'm actually wanted, I offered to go like, do you want to see the YouTube video before I publish it? And like, because I want to make sure I'm right about this and I'm on your side. I mean, I think your solution is good. But the more she talked, the more alarmed I got. And I'm like, man, I'm glad she's not my employee. Because if I was the owner and somebody said that, I'd be like, oh my God. Okay. And then I said, and then she kind of came back with the typical, kind of like customer support. A lot of times I feel is not really trying to address this frustration of the customer. They're trying to cover their assets and they get into this risk mitigation script, which never does good. I mean, it never, whoever thinks that is a way to do it, they have a different experience as a human being than I do, because anytime everyone just kind of says, look, you're right. I know how you feel. And I feel that way too. Then you're fine. She kind of started out that way, but then she circles the wagon with, but you have to understand that sole practitioners or people in really small firms, we like look at ourselves as like different than the big firm corporate mindset. And our view of a big firm is, I wouldn't say there's contempt between big firms and like sole practitioners. We this at this point, I never interact with big firms, or anybody really, but there is a little bit of a thing going on. And the big firms have been kind of on top of AI for a long time, but at this very weird esoteric level. Whereas you and I, what we're trying to do is practice law, you know. Anyway, I'm kind of rambling at this point, but ultimately, I just started thinking, and I actually told her, I go, it sounds like what she said was, we have a team of litigators that tested it. Is there anything else I can answer? Well, I mean, like if all the things that you could say to a sole practitioner who's trying to point out a defect in your product, before he goes public with it, saying it's okay. We acknowledge this big mistake. It's big enough to be a hallucination that's extremely convincing, which means it's hard to detect. And you detected it, weirdo, and but it's okay because even though we have no quality assurance check for it, a team of litigators tested it. No, I'm not like litigator. I respect litigators. I just did a YouTube video on how litigators, in fact, the Wyoming LLC research comes out of my respect for litigators who kind of get through these stupid asset protection schemes with land trusts and LLCs. That was the point of the research. And I point out in the thing that litigators are aggressive, they're smart, and they don't feel emotion like other people. However, come on, let's admit it. Litigate. What's the expression? If you get an A in law school, A's in law school, you're a law professor. If you get B's, you're a judge. If you get C's, you're a litigator. They're not known for being the brightest, the sharpest tools in the legal drawer. They're just charismatic, hardworking people, right? And I can say that because I'm charismatic and smart. I haven't slept much. I've been working a lot on this. And anyway, so I kind of pushed back and said, well, I'm glad you have knowledge. I'm like, the next time you talk to one of your litigators around the water cooler, ask them this question: what's the difference between actual notice and constructive notice in a product liability case? Now, law students are rolling their eyes right now because my memory is, I think product liability is strict liability, isn't it? Because to me, she's doing what OpenAI does, and they look at it as a separate intelligence. The law looks at it as personal property, right? And it's manufactured and being rolled out as a product that is being sold to, of all people, lawyers who are resistant to tech and probably threatened by AI. And as a product, if we rely upon or cannot detect a mistake in the legal research because of a hallucination, and the only assurance that we have is litigators tested it, but other than that, there's no quality assurance, then when it comes to liability, if it ever did, what's the standard? And that's the question you should be asking the litigators, because if the owners, because their attorneys own this platform, which amazing, if they're litigators, they'll understand that. And the thing that's, I'm like, if it's not bizarre enough, I'm kind of puzzled by, on one hand, she was like very candid about hallucinations and this, that, and the other thing, admitting that it was making up case law, but then kind of turned to a script that was a little bit like "fu," right? And then I noticed this, like this kind of thing. Have a wonderful Thursday. Don't you hate it when you're trying to have a serious conversation about something you're not very happy with? They break into customer service lingo, which is basically blowing them off, and then they go, "Have a nice day." Yeah, I'll have a nice day. But one of the things that kind of threw me is I don't know what this means. Is it? It says help Rihanna understand how they're doing. And then I thought, oh, wait a minute. AI writes emails. AI can check your email box. You can program it to respond to incoming emails, and AI can literally have a conversation with somebody about a problem. Like that's a benefit of AI in customer support. When it comes to e-commerce, they're ahead of other industries in terms of 24/7 customer support with AI that can speak to product. Now, AI, ChatGPT, knows it has fictitious product. It knows it's making it up, and it's adamant about arguing with you about it. So it admits, and then it has this pattern of stubbornly holding its position. And so then I'm like, okay. So I go, I have one more question. Um, I noticed this bizarre prompt. Are you human? Let's see if they responded, because um, no response yet. And so now I'm like, oh, this is weird. This is not what my video was supposed to be about. Um, I mean, like, right. So This is the very first video of what I thought was going to be a YouTube channel that was going to be fun. It is fun about for lawyers and law students and other weirdos to help lawyers understand AI and apply it in their practice. And now Elon Musk is calling for a halt for AI, and at this point, I'm kind of behind him. Um, as far as CaseText goes, that's up to you. They're expensive. I think it's expensive, and I don't know. I'm not going to make any opinion, but I'm here to tell you there's a glitch with ChatGPT when it comes to legal research. There's no question about that. Even they admit that. Even AI admits that. And the rush to market means it's alive. So I, for one, am going to still rely on Mr. Google for research because that's just that dog ain't gonna hunt as far as I'm concerned. That's it. I'm depressed. I'm gonna go take a nap. Talk to you later.